The new JBL Partybox Encore 2 is actually a pretty solid small box speaker now thanks to its upgraded battery life, and it gets impressively loud and it has a lot of bass for its size. But today we're going to see how it compares to the JBL Partybox 120 and some other small box speakers like the Sony XV500 and the Soundcore Rave 3S, which is an amazing box speaker for karaoke. We're going to pricing. First off, there's the JBL Partybox Encore 2, which has two versions. Now, there's this version, the JBL Partybox Encore Essential 2, which retails for $330, and this is the more common version. And then there's the JBL Partybox Encore 2, which comes with two wireless mics, and it has a built-in receiver. It has an extended light feature, and its battery is more easily removable, like on the Partybox 120. But this version retails for $400, and it's a lot harder to get, and I really think that this is very dumb on JBL's part. Nonetheless, in this video we're going to be focusing on the JBL Partybox Essential 2. But then there's the Soundcore Rave 3S, which has a retail price of $350, and it comes included with two wireless microphones. And then there's the JBL Partybox 120 and the Sony XV500, which both retail for $400. So if you want to pick any of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below, or you can always press on the YouTube shopping button, and if you want to further support the channel, then you can always pick up some merch. So first, there's the design of these speakers. Now, all of these speakers are small portable box speakers, and they should all be easy enough to take on the go with you. However, the JBL Partybox Encore 2 is half the size of these other box speakers. It has the same footprint, but it's half as tall, and it weighs in at 13.5 pounds, whereas these other speakers weigh in between 20 to 25 pounds. They're all portable, but obviously the Encore 2 is easier to travel with. But when it comes to durability, all of these speakers are the same. They all have a mostly plastic body, they all have a thin metal grille on the front, and they're all rocking an IPX4 rating. So a little bit of water isn't going to hurt these speakers, but these speakers can get scratched and dented very easily. So if you do plan on traveling with them, you're gonna have to be careful with them. But then there are the light features. Now, all of these speakers have a light feature, but unfortunately, I think the Sony XV500 has the least impressive light feature here. It works, but it doesn't look as good as these other light features. I personally really like the Rave 3S's light feature. It's very angular, and you have a lot of customization options through the app. But then there are the light features on JBL speakers. Now, the 120's light feature is a little bigger than the Encore 2's because it has two ring lights, and it also has these light bars on the top and bottom. Now, if you were to get your hands on the more exclusive Encore 2, you're gonna get these light bars, but since this is the Essential, you don't. But you still get your main RGB ring light, and with both the 120 and Encore 2, you can connect them with JBL's Party Light sticks, so you can build out your light feature as well. But obviously, if you decide to use these light features, that is gonna take its toll on the battery life. Now, when it comes to battery life, the JBL Encore 2 has an advertised battery life of 15 hours, which is a lot, and that's with it playing a little over 50% volume, but with the light feature turned off and with the bass boost feature turned off as well. Because with the JBL Partybox 120, it has the same 34 watt-hour battery as the Encore 2, but it has an advertised battery life of 12 hours, and that's with it playing at 20% volume, which is good for like ambiance, and with the light feature turned off and with the bass boost feature turned off as well. Then there's the Soundcore Rave 3S, which has an advertised battery life of 12 hours as well, but that's with it playing at 50% volume and with the light feature turned off and with the bass boost feature turned off as well. And the reason why it can keep up with the Partybox 120 is because it only has one woofer to power, like with the Encore 2, so it's not going to have as much bass as the Partybox 120. And then there's the Sony XV500, which has an advertised battery life of 25 hours, which is a lot, but that's with this speaker playing at 36% volume and with the light feature turned off, but with the mega bass feature turned on. However, 36% volume on the Sony XV500 is quieter than the JBL Partybox 120 playing at 20% volume, and in general, the Sony XV500 is a little quiet for its size when it's running off of its internal battery. But real-world use with the Encore 2, Rave 3S, and Sony XV500 playing at 80% volume, both the Encore 2 and the Rave 3S are good for like 7 hours of playback time, and the XV500 is good for like 8 hours of playback time. And with the Partybox 120, playing at 65% volume is good for around 7 hours of playback time. And with the 120, you can use it at a lower volume because it's just gonna have more bass. But the really important thing here is with the JBL Partybox 120, you can easily and quickly remove the battery. So if you want, you can get multiple batteries and keep the party going, or if you ever get to a point where your battery can no longer hold a charge, instead of having to buy a completely new speaker, you just need to get a new battery, which is going to extend the overall life of your investment. Now, with the Encore Essential 2, you can also remove this battery, but it's not meant to be swapped out as frequently or as easily as with the Partybox 120. But the important thing is it can be done yourself with just a screwdriver, whereas with either the Soundcore or Sony, you can't easily access the battery. And also keep in mind, with the Encore 2, the more elusive version, you can actually swap out the battery just as easily as you can with the Partybox 120. But when it comes to charging these speakers, all of these speakers, except for the Soundcore Rave 3S, charge via a double barrel AC port, which is standard. So with the Encore 2, Partybox 120, and Sony XV500, you are going to get a performance boost out of them while they're plugged in. They're going to get louder and they're going to have more bass. Whereas with the Soundcore Rave 3S, it charges via a USB-C port, which is super convenient, but you don't get a performance boost out of it when it's plugged in. And also, this USB-C port is strictly used for charging the speaker itself. Whereas with the Encore 2, it's the only speaker here that has a USB-C port so that you can use it to charge your own devices, and you can also use it as a wired connection. Whereas with both the Partybox 120 and the Sony XV500, you can charge your phone, but you do have to use a USB-A port, which isn't as convenient or as relevant in 2025. However, with both the Partybox 120 and Sony XV500, you can plug in a USB stick if you want, but I don't think that's very relevant in 2025. But all of these speakers do have an audio jack, so you can use them with a wired connection that way. And when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, all of these speakers can be connected to 2 devices at the same time, so you and a friend can both be DJ, and latency is not an issue for any of these speakers, so you can use them to watch videos with on your phone. However, one major port that's only found on the Partybox 120 is that it does have an audio out jack as well. So you can actually daisy chain it up to any other speaker regardless of size or brand, and you can get them to play in sync. And also with all of these speakers, you can plug in a wired mic for karaoke, or you can plug in a guitar, but I think karaoke is more important. However, with both the Encore 2 and the Soundcore Rave 3S, you only have a single 3/4 inch input, whereas both the Partybox 120 and the Sony XV500, they have 2 3/4 inch inputs. But with the Soundcore Rave 3S, this speaker comes included with 2 wireless microphones. So if you want, you can get a total of 3 mics going if you want. You have the 2 wireless microphones, and then you can plug in a wired one. Whereas with either of JBL's or Sony speakers, you do have to get their wireless microphones, which are sold separately. Now, the wireless mics that come with the Rave 3S are good, but the JBL Partybox mics do sound better, and they do a much better job of not picking up as much noise when you're handling them. Because like right now, you can see not too much noise. However, with the Rave 3S's mics, if I were to handle them too much, you are going to hear a lot of feedback. But the really cool thing about the Soundcore Rave 3S is that it does have this built-in AI vocal removal tool, which actually works directly on the device itself. So with the press of a button, you can actually remove the vocals from any song that's playing, from any streaming service that you're using, and this feature actually works in multiple languages. Because right now we do have it on, and from the mic itself, you can actually adjust how much you want to block out. So right now we have it running at max, or you can knock it down to 75, 50, 25, and now it's off. So here come the vocals. Okay, so the vocals are back in. Now we're gonna go ahead and turn on the AI vocal removal tool again. feature is actually really cool for karaoke. So overall, all of these speakers are good options for karaoke, but the Soundcore Rave 3S is the best option here right out of the box because it comes included with 2 wireless mics, but more importantly, it does have that AI vocal removal tool, so this way you can do karaoke with any song that's playing from any streaming service that you're using. You don't have to go looking for karaoke versions of your favorite songs on any other platform. And like I mentioned earlier, the wireless microphones that come included with the Soundcore Rave 3S sound good. However, the JBL Partybox mics do sound better, but I do understand that these are more premium. But wait, if you want to further support the channel, then check out our affiliate partner, Manscaped. Manscaped has a trimmer for any of your grooming needs. First off, there's the Handyman, which is a compact face shaver. There's the upgraded Lawnmower 4.0 Pro, which charges via a USB-C port and it still has wireless charging, but more importantly, it has a new upgraded and stronger motor. There's also the Lawnmower 5.0, which also has the same great upgraded motor, plus it also comes included with a foil if you want to get a skin-tight shave. There's also the Dome Saver Pro, which has 5 double-track blade heads. It's easy to clean and it also charges via a USB-C port, or it also has wireless charging. And finally, there's the Chairman Pro, which is my personal favorite. It not only feels super premium, but it also has 2 interchangeable heads, so either you can get a skin-tight shave or you can leave the right amount of stubble. No matter your needs, Manscaped has a shaver for you, so check out Manscaped in the link down below. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about sound. Regarding speaker setup, the JBL Partybox Encore 2 has a single front-mid firing woofer with an exhaust port that shoots out the back and dual front-mid firing tweeters. Then there's the Soundcore Rave 3S, which has a single front-mid firing woofer with an exhaust port that shoots out the back, and it has a total of 3 front-mid firing drivers. And then there are both the JBL Partybox 120 and the Sony XV500, which have dual front-mid firing woofers and dual front-mid firing tweeters. The main difference here is the exhaust port on the Sony shoots out the front, whereas with the 120, it shoots out the back like with all of these other speakers. And with all of these speakers, you can go into their apps and you can adjust their EQs to your liking, and they all have a bass boost feature. So I know that was a lot, but now we're going to go ahead and jump into the sound test. All of these speakers are playing with their stock EQs and with their bass boost feature turned on, and they're all playing at 75% volume, and they're all playing while unplugged.
How could I know it would be goodbye, my love? When did the close of forever come, my love? All I recall was a stare that was vacant and cold. Where did the spark go, the warmth that once stole my soul?
So first off, when it comes to the JBL Encore 2 versus the JBL Partybox 120, the Partybox 120 does sound a little more open than the Encore 2. I don't think it's a huge difference, but it is there. But what is super noticeable is the bass. The JBL Partybox 120 has a lot more kick and resonance in its bass, simply because it has two woofers instead of just one. Now, both of these speakers have rear-firing exhaust ports, so you can amplify their bass by either placing them up against the wall or in a corner, and the Encore 2 has a lot of bass for its size, but simply put, the Partybox 120 just has more. But more importantly, the Partybox 120 not only has more bass, it sounds a little more open as well. But then there's the Sony XV500. Now, this speaker also has dual woofers, but its bass is mostly on the audible side. But what really makes the Sony XV500 stand out here is that it sounds the most open because it has the best instrument separation. But the problem with this speaker is that when it's running off of its internal battery, it doesn't get as loud as you'd expect. So the Sony sounds better than the Encore 2, but the Encore 2 might actually get a little louder when both of these speakers are running off of their internal batteries. And then there's the Soundcore Rave 3S, which appears to get very loud, but that's because this speaker leans towards a brighter sound signature and it doesn't have as much kick in its bass because it only has one woofer. So the Soundcore Rave 3S is a little louder than the Encore 2, but the bass is on the same level. And then there's max volume performance on these speakers. Now, all of these speakers are good for like a 15-person party, I feel. But with the Soundcore, since it charges via a USB-C port, you are not going to get a performance boost out of it while it's plugged in. Whereas with all of these other speakers, you do. They get a little louder and they have more bass. And when the Sony XV500 is plugged in, this is when the speaker starts to perform as you'd expect. Now, when they're both plugged in, the Encore 2 gets almost as loud as the Sony XV500, which is super impressive for the Encore 2, but it doesn't sound as open. And then there's the JBL Partybox 120, which is the loudest speaker here when it's plugged in. Now, the Soundcore Rave 3S also gets very loud at max volume, but that's because this speaker does lean towards a brighter sound signature, and it doesn't sound as full as the Partybox 120 because it doesn't have as much kick or resonance in its bass. So overall, the JBL Partybox Encore 2 does a great job of keeping up with both the Sony XV500 and the Soundcore Rave 3S. However, the Sony does have a better instrument separation and the Soundcore gets louder, but with the same amount of kick in its bass. But then there's the Partybox 120, which not only gets overall louder and it has more bass, it also sounds a little more open than the Encore 2. But finally, let's talk about pairing these speakers up with other speakers. Now, with all of these speakers, if you have two of the exact same speakers, then you can wisely pair them together and get them to play in left and right stereo mode. Now, the Sony XV500 is using Sony's Party Connect, so you can pair it up with other Sony speakers that are also using Party Connect, like either an Old Tower 10 or an Old Tower 9, XV800, XV500, or to an XP700 or XP500. But you can also connect your larger box speakers to any of Sony's smaller speakers that are also using Party Connect, like either an Oldfield 7 or an XG500, XG300, XE300, XE200, or to an Oldfield 5, Oldfield 3, or to a Sony XP43, XP33, or XP23, and you can pair up to 100 speakers together and get them to all play in sync. The only thing is, you cannot connect your Sony XV500 to a Sony Oldfield 1, which is currently my favorite small size speaker to use and recommend because the Oldfield 1 does not have Party Connect. But then there are all of these other speakers that are using Auracast. Now, the idea with Auracast is that you're going to be able to wirelessly connect multiple Auracast speakers regardless of brand. But as of right now, I haven't been able to connect my Soundcore Rave 3S to any of my other Auracast speakers. So to be on the safe side, if you do plan on getting the Soundcore Rave 3S, then you do want to get other Soundcore speakers that are also using Auracast. But then there are these JBL Partyboxes which have a lot going on. First off, since they're both using Auracast, you can connect your Encore 2 or Partybox 120 to, let's say, the Partybox 320, 520, or Ultimate and get them to play in sync. Or you can also connect them to JBL's smaller speakers that are also using Auracast, like either a Charge 6, Extreme 4, Flip 7, Clip 5, or Go 4. But also, both the Encore 2 and Partybox 120 do give you some backwards compatibility because you can connect them with older party boxes that are using TWS, like either an original Encore or to a Partybox 110, 310, or 710. The only thing is, you cannot connect either your Encore 2 or Partybox 120 to JBL's older speakers that are using Party Boost, like either a Boombox 3, Boombox 2, an Extreme 3, Pulse 5, Pulse 4, Charge 5, or to a Flip 6 or a Flip 5. But with all that being said, the JBL Partybox Encore 2 is a very impressive small box speaker that does a really good job of keeping up with its larger counterparts. And even though it's small, it now has a large enough battery so it's going to be able to keep up with you through a whole day of hard listening on a single charge. And thanks to Auracast, you can connect the Encore 2 to JBL's newer speakers that are also using Auracast, plus you can connect it to JBL's Party Lights, and it also has a decent amount of backwards compatibility. The JBL Encore 2 is a solid pickup if you need big sound in a small package. However, if you were to go with the JBL Partybox 120, this speaker is going to get louder, it's going to have more bass, and it's going to sound a little more open as well. Also, with the Partybox 120, it's easier to swap out the battery, and with the Partybox 120, it does have that audio out jack, so you can daisy chain it up to any other speaker out there and get them to play in sync. Or you can use it with two wired mics for karaoke, or hypothetically speaking, you can get 4 wireless mics going with the Partybox 120 if you buy 2 of these Partybox mic kits. The Sony XV500 offers you better instrument separation, but max volume is a little lacking when it's running off of its internal battery. And finally, there's the Soundcore Rave 3S. This speaker gets louder and it's brighter than the Partybox Encore 2, but the kick in space is on the same level because it only has a single woofer like the Encore 2. But what really makes the Soundcore Rave 3S stand out is that it does come included with 2 wireless mics, and it has that AI vocal removal tool, which works extremely well, making this an amazing karaoke machine right out of the box. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.